Hey everybody, welcome to Harmon Garage. I'm Aaron, and we're making another video. Surprise! No. Alright, so we're back. Last time you saw, we got Shorty all cleaned up and painted, and it is looking slick. This is like, I can't even tell you how long I've been working on square body trucks for. It's been a long time. And this is only the second time I've ever had one completely down to a bare frame and painted it. Like, I've painted a bunch of frames when they still had cabs on and got underneath and brushed them and everything else, but it's only the second time I've ever actually stripped the frame down and painted it. So yeah, pretty cool. If you saw the first one wasn't filmed, it was way before YouTube. Long Step was stripped down to the frame, but it was powder coated before it was brought to me to start on it. And then there's this one. So yeah, got the frame done, and now I got this pile. So I pressure washed that 3 times. It's pretty clean, but I still got a little bit of scraping and wire brushing I gotta do to get it ready for paint. I have to get the bushings, the mount bushings, the sway bar bushings, and the ball joints and the bump stops out of this, and they're gonna get pressure washed, both of these. I gotta take the backing plates off of here. I gotta take the drag link out of this conglomeration, and the rest of it's all for the scrap pile. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not gonna make you guys sit here and watch me take all that crap apart and clean it and paint it. And I mean, you already watched me clean and paint the frame. How much cleaning and painting can you watch? So I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm gonna get it all done and knock it all out. Hopefully get it painted today, let it sit overnight. Then the frame can sit overnight, because I know it's 2 separate videos, but I actually painted this frame this morning. So let the frame sit overnight, let all these parts sit overnight, and then tomorrow they should be cured enough that we can start putting them back together. They're still gonna be soft, but as long as I'm careful, they'll be fine. And then we'll let it sit for a couple weeks like we did with the back, and just let paint cure and harden and all that stuff. But once we get the front end done, old Shorty's gonna have a permanent home in the shop until it's done. So we'll roll it outside, work on it, whatever, but from this point on, it's gonna be kept inside. So right now the burnout truck's in there too. I think I told you guys this, but don't mind the fan, it's hot. The Scout headed off to the body shop. It's gone. We won't see it for probably a couple months. So I'll keep the burnout truck inside for now. We'll put Shorty inside, and then when the Snake Scout comes back, we'll probably have to bring the burnout truck outside, because it'll need to be inside too. So we'll figure that out when the time comes. I'm just blabbing. By the way, you guys need some new t-shirts at all? Anybody? We're gonna give away another one in this video. So if you're new to this, I give away t-shirts on videos. In order to be eligible to win a t-shirt, leave a comment, hit the like button, and be subscribed to the channel. That's all you gotta do. I do the random comment generator. It tells me who won, and I tell you who won. You give me your size and your address, and I send you a t-shirt. That easy. Don't cost you nothing. You don't have to buy nothing. You don't gotta do nothing but be super awesome. Watch my video and leave a comment. So make sure you do that. And I kind of started a new thing on the last video. If you watched it, I'm gonna do it again on this video. If this video gets 300 comments, I'll give away 3 t-shirts instead of 1. So you guys make it happen, and I'll make it happen. But I'm gonna get to work, sweat my butt off. You guys enjoy sitting in the AC, and I'll see you in a second. All right, well, took a couple days, but I finally got everything cleaned up and painted. There's the engine cross member, the drag link, the upper brackets for the engine cross member. That's our pivots for our lower control arms. lower control arms are over there leaning against the tire. The only thing I got left to paint is the coil springs. They're all cleaned up and everything, but I just got to shoot paint on them. But I'm gonna go ahead and put the engine cross member back in the truck. I did clean the bolts up, but when you see them, if you see them, they're still gonna look kind of rusty and dirty. They are cleaned up, but I'm not gonna come back and spray paint and overspray all the good paint that I've already done. I'm gonna take the touch-up paint that I have and I'll touch them up with a brush, like I mentioned before. So I'm gonna get that engine cross member put in. Then after we do that, we'll go ahead and assemble the lower control arms and we can get them bolted on. And we'll just keep going along, getting the front end put back together. All right, you guys saw I got that cross member back up in there. I got the bolts in it, just hand tight started, not even hand tight, just started. I still have the jack underneath it because the jack is pretty much holding it up against the frame. The bolts are not. Now I just wanted to go over a couple things with you guys real quick before I finished all this up. But as you can see here, we got these two holes here and then these two nuts down here. And those bolts come through this back side and come to this side and tighten down. Now you don't want to put that cross member up there and put those bottom three bolts in and just hammer them down tight, because like I can tell right now just by looking at these that they're off a little bit. There's not, I mean, they're not slotted, but there's enough room in the holes that they can move around. So if you go and just hammer all 6 of those big bolts down that hold that engine cross member up, and then go back and try to put your other bolts in and tighten them down, then you're gonna end up going back and undoing these bolts that you've already put in to be able to move that cross member around so you can put your other bolts back in. So basically what I'm getting at is just put all your bolts in before you tighten anything down, and it'll save you a lot of work in the long run. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out. I'll show you guys the finished product when we get there. All right, well, I told you guys about how I wanted to do the order of putting all the bolts back in and tightening them down, and I got it done. So engine cross member bolted back in. We got all 4 bolts on both sides and then all 6 bolts in the middle, and everything's tightened down. All the bolts have been cleaned on the wire wheel, but once again, I'm not painting anything until it's all in, because if you clean up and paint bolts and then let them sit there and dry and then put a socket or a wrench on them to tighten them down, then they look like you put a socket or a wrench on them to tighten them down. And you paint a bolt and then run a nut on it and the threaded part, and the nut just takes all the paint off. So I'm just waiting. When I get the entire chassis, like hopefully about the end of this video, when the entire chassis is put back together and it's sitting on all 4 wheels, then I'll go back with a paintbrush and touch up paint, and I'll paint all the bolt heads, and I'll paint all the bolts, and I'll paint the U-bolts for the leaf springs. You can see they're bare and rusting because I didn't do anything to them yet. So they'll get painted. All these bolts up here will get painted. The rear shock bolts that are surface rusting will get painted. That's just how I do it. It's no good to try to do it pre-installation, because then you go back and do it again anyways. So in the meantime, I got the front cross member all back in and bolted up. I got the leaf spring, or the coil springs, the rest of the way cleaned up and painted. And I've got my stuff laid out over here to start putting my lower control arms back together. I got bushings here, bushings over there, ball joint, got my pivots all painted. Still need to clean the ends up where the bushings go with some emery cloth, but that's no big deal. So I'm gonna get some emery cloth. And just so you guys know, before I forget to say something, those nuts and the threaded part on those pivots for the lower control arms, when they've been on there 40 years and you make that lock nut come off and it kind of pulls on the threads and everything else, if you have any way that you can get a tap and die those nuts, get it done, because otherwise you're just forcing boogered up threads onto boogered up threads, and that's, no matter what the jokes are and everything else, that's not Loctite. That's just bad. So yeah, I already ran a die on all those threads and a tap through all the nuts, so they screw right on and off. I just got to clean up where the bushings go in the control arms and on the pivot rods, pins, bolts, whatever you want to call them. And then I'll fire the other camera up and we'll get these lower control arms put back together. So that's what I'm doing. See you in a minute. Okay. As you can probably see, I already got my pivot bar and my ball joint in that one. That would be the passenger side. I've slept a couple times since the last time I did this, so I just wanted to knock one out real quick, make sure I still had it. Of course I did. So, going to I don't know how well you guys can see this, but I took 80 grit emery cloth and I sanded inside where the ball joint goes, and I sanded inside all four of the rails where the bushings, control arm bushings go. So just to clean the paint out and not make it harder on myself to get them in. So I got my, hold on, let me make sure you guys can even see what I'm doing. And you can't. So there you go. Alright, so I set my ball joint in there, and I'm sure you guys heard it but didn't see it. But I just took dead blow hammer. I was tapping that. Just two reasons. One, trying to make sure I got it going in straight, and two, to put enough on it that it stays in there, so I'm not fighting trying to hold it in there while I'm doing all this. So now get my ball joint press. This is not easy. If you've never done this before, the thing I'm going to tell you is it's not easy to do by yourself. It's a pain in the butt to try to hold all this crap, especially when it's not on the vehicle. When it's on the vehicle, the control arm is being held and you're just wrestling with these pieces. When it's off the vehicle like this, you're just wrestling with every dang thing. So what I'm trying to do now is just get this set on there, and then once I get it on there, I'll make sure that I got this going straight. Then I got it off just a little bit crooked. I don't want to hit in the center of the ball joint. because that'll screw the ball joint up. I'm only hitting on the outside, and I only hit it enough to straighten it out. So now I got it going in straight for the second time. Now we'll try to get this all set up on here again with lock on our side. We'll try this again. You hear that little pop? Well, that's usually I'm seating all the way, but not quite seated all the way. It needs just a little bit more. Just on this side. I could probably tap it with a hammer, but we're not going to. Now we got it seated all the way. Yep, she's seated all the way around. Once again, we had to use that ball joint press, which scarred this up a little bit, so we'll add that to our list of stuff that needs to be touched up. Put that on. Got our little bag here. Get our cotter key and our grease zerd out. What I like to do when they're not on yet, and might not be a good idea, might be a great idea, I don't know, but put the cotter key in. I put the nut on just far enough that it's tight for the cotter key to slide in, and then I put it in, and then I turn the nut so it's sitting against it so it can't come out. And then when it comes time to put that cotter key in, because you put that ball joint on, you're not running all over looking for the little bag that came in. So now we're going to put our grease zerd on. I get this stuff all assembled before I put it on, but when you do this you got to be careful, because if you're not paying attention to what you're doing and you just throw your control arm over there, which most of the time when you guys are doing ball joints, they're probably going to be on the vehicle unless you're doing a full build like this. But you just got to be careful. You don't want to just chuck this across the ground and break that grease zerd off, because if you do that, you might as well just go get a new ball joint. So now we got that done. We got our bushings here. And before I forget to mention this, all these suspension parts, all the brakes on the back, all these suspension parts that we're putting on the front, all the brakes that we're putting on the front, everything came from Napa. And I am not sponsored by Napa. Napa has not contacted me in any way, shape, or form. But my good friends that I'm building this truck for work for Napa. And that's where they're getting the parts from. And I don't have any complaints. Not saying none of the other providers are, but Napa's got good quality parts. So there's nothing wrong with it. Napa, if you're watching this and you want to sponsor me, I'm your guy. Email's in the description. But anyways, we got our bushing. Don't have my bar or anything in yet. I just got this bushing. I'm going to take my hammer. I'm going to tap it in as far as I can get it. On this one, I was able to get it in dang near all the way. This one was the same way. You can see it's maybe 1/8 of an inch from being all the way seated, and it's all the way already coming through the other side. So now what I'll do, I'll take my pivot, and these are painted, guys. I don't know how well you can see them, but they're all covered in dirt and stuff from, not dirt, but dust and whatnot from cleaning them up. So Now I'll put my pivot rod through, and I'll get my nut started on this side, maybe. Once again, I did this, but this is a big reason why you want to tap these. This one just having a hard time going on. There we go. It's off a little bit, and now I gotta take it back off because I didn't put the washer on it. I was just checking to see if you guys were paying attention to the guy in the back that hollered at me and said, hey, don't forget the washer. I appreciate it. Anyway, we got our washer. Now this is going to go right on first try. See, look at that, I told you. We'll get that started. Now that we got that side on, we're going to grab our other bushing and we're going to slide it in. And I try to tap these, but without hitting the bar, it doesn't do a lot of good. It's in there far enough that I can get this on and started. So now what I'm going to do, I got a ratchet, I got a socket. I'm just going to take my ratchet and tighten it down. And what it's going to do, if you watch it, you're going to see there's a gap between the end of your pivot rod and the insides of your bushing. If you watch, it's going to take this and it's going to pull it over that way. And I'm just going to keep going. Just to keep you guys in the same loop, it pulled the pin all the way over against this side, obviously, because I'm tightening it that way, it's pulling it that way. So now I've got a gap over here. I'm watching my bushing come into the control arm over here, and I'm watching this gap over here get smaller. So eventually it's going to get to where everything's so tight that it just starts spinning my pivot rod because it's not pulling it through anymore. And when we get to that point, I'll show you the next little trick. Like right there. That's all the way tightened down. I'll turn this one around. Tighten this down as far as it'll go. And I'm still watching it. We're still moving. It's still pulling our bushing in. Everything else. Okay. Now we're tight. Our bushings are tied up against our pivot pin on both sides. They won't tighten anymore. Now I'm going to take my control arm, I'm going to take my dead blow hammer. And you see, I don't know if you guys can see that, I should have showed you closer. But just one little hit, it seated that bushing. It brought it all the way in, and it almost seated it on the outside. Now I'm going to flip it over. And this side looks like it needs to come in just a little bit more. There we go. Now that's in. So our bushings are installed. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I crank down on these nuts as tight as I could. Got them all the way till they wouldn't go no more. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to back them off. I did the same thing on the other side, and by backing them off, that gives us, I mean, I still can't turn this by hand. It's pulled in there, but once I get it bolted into the truck, it'll allow me to move that control arm easier. To get everything hooked up. Now once I get everything hooked up, then I'll go back and snug these back down again, because once you get the weight of the whole vehicle and everything on them, they're gonna move. So, but alright, so that's it. Control arms are installed. Like I said, they got a little bit of touch-up paint that's going to need to be done on them. But if you guys think you can build something and not have to touch up anything, you're a lot better man than I am, because there's always something that needs to be touched up paint-wise or whatever. So I'm going to clean all this stuff up and get my U-bolts cleaned up, and we'll start hanging lower control arms. Okay. Got my U-bolts all cleaned up on the wire wheel. Now, for those of you that have taken these apart before, what I'm about to tell you is not going to be a surprise, and you're going to say, I don't need to know, I already know. But for the people that haven't, this is why I'm telling. So, in these cradles up here, where your pivot pin for your lower control arm sits, there's like little dowels that stick down. You come over here and grab this, and on your control arms there's receivers for the dowels. So when you go to put these up in there, you want to make sure that your dowels up there got this turned a little bit the wrong way, so it's kind of hard going in. All right. Give me a second, guys. I'm overheated at best. So let me sit for a second, and we'll get back on this. Whoa. But what I did do was turn this pin so that my holes are up more instead of directly down. And check my U-bolts to make sure that they go in. So I'm pretty sure I just said this, but I honestly don't remember. The front has a dowel to line it up, the back doesn't. So I got the back in because, come on. There we go. Alright. That's in the dowel where it needs to be. This does not want, I cannot get the dang U-bolt to go in this one. There we go. Now it's trying to go. It's gonna find the spot again right there. There it is. I'm gonna snug this up. There we go. Lower control arms on. Look how easy it moves now. Once we get those, once we get everything together, like I said, we can tighten those up. But in the meantime, it looks like everything is good. I'm going to go ahead and get the other one slapped on the other side. Going to go on exactly like this one did. Well, hopefully a little bit easier, but going to go on pretty much the same, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, next thing we're going to do, put on these control arms that I really like, and the reason I really like them is because I didn't have to do nothing to them. So these also came from Napa, and they're fully loaded. They got the ball joint in them. Brand new bushings. They're already painted satin black. I mean, it don't get no better than that. So what I did up here is, this is gonna have to be aligned regardless. There's no way around it. So I got a pile of all the shims that I took out of the upper control arms for both sides. So I just took and split them down, divided them up 4 ways because I got 4 mounts. So I'll have the same amount everywhere just to put it together. And then once it goes and gets in alignment, they can put whatever shims need to be in there to make it so it's aligned properly. But in the meantime, I got it so it's all even everywhere. And hopefully that'll be, well, I mean, everything's going to hook up. We just gonna need an alignment, like I said. So got that started on there. Start our bolts, our nuts. Okay, got those on nice and tight. Now we're going to go get our spring and our spindle, and we'll make a connection here. Alright, we're going to see how this goes. It's either going to be really easy or it's going to be really not. But being that these are lowering springs and lowering spindles, especially lowering springs, I should be able to set all this stuff together and hook it up and tighten it down without needing jacks and all that stuff. We're going to see what happens here. Nope, we're gonna need a jack, and I gotta get this upper control arm down, which it's not wanting to do. I'll be right back. I'm back. And we got our jack here. Alright, we might have to get creative with this because there's no weight on it, so it's just trying to pick the whole truck up instead of collapsing the spring. So I think what I'm going to do is run a ratchet strap over the upper control arm and down to the lower control arm and maybe suck them together and see, because I don't think me sitting on it is going to be enough weight to bring it down, and not exactly the safest thing. Not that safety really matters here at Harmon Garage, but you know. Yeah, that's not going to do it, so let me figure something out and then we'll move on from there. Alright, so they make these things called spring compressors, but I don't have any. And yes, you can go to the parts store and rent them for free. But when you live where I live, that's minimum hour task to go to the parts store and pick something up. So, that being said, we're going to make our own little spring compressor here, or at least try to, and see what happens. So, I'm going to hook onto this control arm, and hook onto this control arm, and so far seems to be working, but I need to put my strap behind my spindle. There we go. We're almost there. Let's see if we add a second strap, if it helps. So close, yet so far away. That started to work. Sitting where I need to be with my spring. I just need to get it a little bit farther. Dang it. Maybe. So close. What do you guys recommend? I'm not having much luck here. I don't have any way to get weight on it, and that's what I need. I can almost get it there. I can almost push this down far enough to get it in there, but not quite enough to get a nut on. Alright, this is stupid and dangerous, but we'll see what happens. It's gotta be so dang close. Oh, I think I can get it, maybe. Yay! Jeez. Alright. I got it. So there's that. Springs in. Correct orientation. Where it's supposed to be. Should be able to take the jack off of it now and get it back on the jack stand. And then can tighten all these nuts up and finalize that. So I'm gonna go get some wrenches, tighten up my ball joints, and then I'll bring you guys back and we'll start working on the next thing. Okay. We got our backing plate all cleaned up, and I don't paint these because they weren't painted from the factory. They're galvanized, and I mean, they weren't ever painted. I don't paint them, so if you want them painted, you can paint them, but I don't. So another thing is with these, depending on the manufacturer of the drop spindle, they don't change the orientation for where these mount. And when you put all the weight on the truck and the lower control arm comes in, they hit in here. These look like they've been, nope, they're not. See? You guys might not be able to see, but okay, so when I put this on here, where it bolts up, my cutout for my lower control arm's clear over here on the side, which when the lower control arm comes up, it's going to hit here. So this actually needs to be cut out. But then when you cut that out, it doesn't have any strength here. Hopefully you guys are following me. So I put this up here and I bolt it on. I need this whole piece down here to be gone. I guess honestly what I could do is just cut this across here and then cut this across here and just take that whole piece out, and then we'd still have all of this, and that should work. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to I would think at some point in time the manufacturer of these drop spindles would be able to figure it out so that you could keep the dust shield and put it on, you know, in the right orientation or whatever, but apparently they can't, so I don't know. So I'm gonna go get a marker and I'm gonna mark this, and then once I get it marked, I'm going to take it across here and down here so we can keep our mounting hole, and then I'm going to take it down across here. Then I'll go put it on the bandsaw and trim it out, and that should do what we need it to do. So we're only taking off, let's say, a heavy 4 inches, which at the end of the day that's not going to make or break anything, but it'd be nice if they'd fix it so that it worked right, is what I'm trying to get at. So I'm gonna go get a marker real quick. I'll mark where I need to cut this, and then I'll cut it real quick, so hopefully you guys can see what I'm talking about. You know what, I'm gonna go get the other camera when I get the marker, and I'll bring you guys in here and show you exactly what I'm doing. Alright, so what I was explaining to you guys is there's this cutout right here in the dust shield. Well, on the factory drop spindle, the spindle's rotated up and the brake caliper is more like up here instead of down here, and the bolting points for this dust cover are the same, so that rotates that dust cover like this, and this cutout right here is at the bottom where the lower control arm can come into it. That's the whole purpose of that cutout. Well, with these drop spindles and them bringing this down, that rotates this back, and this cutout does no good anymore. So now when you put all your weight on the vehicle and bring it down, and this lower control arm comes up and out, it hits here, and it pushes this up into the rotor, bends up a bunch of crap, and it's just a pain in the butt. So like I said, I wish they would fix it. The makers of the drop spindles would figure it out so that you either, you know, send dust covers with them or something. But what I do to remedy this is I want to keep my mounting hole, so I'm going to come across right here, and I'm going to go into that original cutout just so it looks clean. And then I'm going to come over here on this side of the spindle like so, and I'm going to bring this down right there. And then I still got all 3 of my mounting points for durability, and I still have the majority of my dust shield. I just got to take this corner out down here so that everything can move like it's supposed to. So I'm going to pull this off now. I'll take it over on the bandsaw, cut somewhere along these lines, try to make it look somewhat neat, and then we'll clean it up, and then we'll put it back on. Don't look too bad. I rounded the edges off, cleaned it up, and once everything's together on the truck, somebody would really have to be paying attention and know exactly what they were looking at to notice that I even cut it. But it's still there. It's still serving its purpose on 95% of what it was serving the purpose before, and we don't have to worry about anything hitting now. So we're in good shape. We'll finish getting this bolted up, and then we'll move on to brakes. We're getting there. We're halfway through one side. So alrighty. Okay, I was just going through the boxes with all the parts that he got, getting all the stuff together to do the brakes. And normally I pop these bumpers, limiters, whatever you want to call them, out and just leave them out, because since everything's lowered, they'll bottom out on those bump stops, and it won't let it sit down all the way. But he bought new ones, so what I'm going to do is take these over in the bandsaw, and I'm going to cut them so there's only maybe a 1/2 inch of rubber left there. Just try to get a real nice straight clean cut on there, and then we'll go ahead and put these in, and that way if it does hit a bump hard and it comes all the way down, there will be some rubber there that it'll hit. But you don't want to leave the whole bump stop on there, because once this gets weight on it, it'll come up and sit against this engine cross member, and it won't let the truck sit down all the way sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, you know, leave a 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch on this, and then I'll get it put in. Okay, I took brake parts cleaner and towels, thoroughly clean this rotor, all the surfaces where the pads are going to make contact, and the hat of the rotor, because the style of wheels that this truck is going to have on it, you're going to be able to see the hat. So we're going to go ahead and paint it so that it doesn't, I mean, obviously if you don't paint it, it's going to have rust on it and you're going to see it. So we got brand new bearings, like everything else on the truck. Everything is brand new. Got a new seal here. Now if you see, I took the box from the rotor, flipped it over upside down, and I set my rotor on top of it. The reason I did that is because I prefer to pack bearings by hand rather than I have bearing packers. I know they sell bearing packers. I know you can pack bearings with a bearing packer. All of the above. You don't have to tell me. I know. I prefer to do it by hand. By doing this, I have a clean surface. I can pack the bearing. Obviously, I'll set the inner bearing in here. But then the outer bearing, I'm going to pack both bearings at the same time, so I'm not getting messy, cleaning up, getting messy, cleaning up. So I've got somewhere clean to set my bearing while I put it on when I have to put my bearing on. So I'm going to go ahead and pack these bearings. We'll get them put in, get our seal drive, drove in, all that. Owner of the truck was nice enough to bring me a bucket of grease. So we're not going to run out on that, and be good to go. So just get these packed and move on to the next step. Alright, got that one packed all the way through. Want to clean out the center so we don't make a huge mess when we put it on. Make sure our gaps are full, smooth off. Make sure I rub extra grease on the outside of the bearing, just because that's what I do. And then go ahead and put that in there. And almost cleaned up, see? I told you I wasn't paying attention. Get some more grease. Grab the outer bearing. Same thing, get it packed all the way through, clean the grease out of the center, make sure we got grease around the outside, set it off to the side. I don't really like to waste stuff, so I'm going to get as much of this off as I can, put it back in the tub. And I'm going to go clean up real quick, so I'll be right back. Okay, got all cleaned up. Now we're going to go ahead and put our seal in. And we got new nuts, bearing adjuster nuts and everything, cotter pins, all of it. No, stone left unturned. So put that on there. We'll grab our bearing with our clean fingers. Stick that in there. Our washer. Our spindle nuts. Alright, well, I gotta get that the rest of the way on, but my fingers are all greasy, and yeah, you know what I mean. So I'm gonna go wipe my fingers off. I'll run that down. I've already gone through setting preload on bearings. In another video, I want to say it was when I did the front drop on groundskeeper. So if you want to check that out, go check that out. But I'm going to wipe my fingers off. I'm going to tie this down. And my little girl just called me and wanted Daddy to come home and have lunch with her. So when your little girl calls you and tells you she wants you to come home and have lunch with her, you stop what you're doing and you go home and have lunch with her. So I'm going to wrap this up and go home and have lunch with my baby girl. And then I'll come back and we'll finish it up. Okay, well, I know I said everything that goes on this truck for the most part is going to be new, but when the list got made of all the parts we needed for the truck, the dust covers for the bearings got overlooked, and I just ran 30 miles into town to get a set, and they gave me the wrong ones. Not blaming anybody. I should have checked better. But anyways, we got the wrong ones. So I spent the last 20 minutes or so cleaning and doing some body work on the old ones. It will 99% still get new ones, but this will keep everything clean and dust free for now. So right now I'm taping off this rotor because we're going to paint this hat, this and this and this and this. So getting it taped off, we'll shoot some paint on it, and then we can take the tape off and put the caliper on. And then for now, this side's done, other than putting the tire back on, because I'll put the rubber brake hoses on when I do all the hard brake lines and everything. I'll just do all that at the same time. And so for the time being, slap some paint on this, let it dry for a little bit, slap a caliper on it, and she'll be done. And I know we're getting close to being done because my pile of parts that I have for this thing is quickly dwindling. So I'll shoot some paint on here. While the paint dries, I'm going to go over, throw the other side together. No point in filming that because you guys just watched me put this side together, so you already got it down. Don't want to bore you making you watch the same thing twice. So this just had time to dry. I took all the tape off, got it unmasked, however you want to say it, and time to put the where am I at? Time to put the brake caliper on with the brake shoes, and then, or brake pads I mean, and then we will put the shock on, and then as far as the front suspension and brake goes, will be as far as we're going with it for right now. I mentioned earlier that I still got the rubber hoses that need to go on, but I'm going to wait and put those on when I put the brake lines on, and just do it all the plumbing at one time. So got brand new calipers, got our pad set here. Okay, caliper is installed, brake pads installed. Next thing we got to do, mount our shock. We got the Beltec Nitro 2s matching set to the rears. Put in our stud. Alright, got our shock installed, got our stud nut up top, got our bolt in the bottom. All we got left to do is tighten it down. So I'm going to go ahead and get it tightened down, and then I'll go through all this with you guys and show you both sides, and then we get to start on the steering. So here we go. Alright, just sat down for a minute, get a drink of water, whatnot, and figured I'd walk you guys around, show you up close how everything's looking. So we'll do that real quick, but here's the finished product. Rotor's all painted. Like I said, the dust cover looks good, but we'll probably end up putting a brand new one on it, but it's great for now. Brake calipers on, shocks on. I went back when you guys weren't looking and put grease zerks and stuff in. And upper control arm came with a bracket with a little clip that helped hold the brake line. Like there's the one up here, but there's a secondary one here. But it hangs down like this, and when the steering turns all the way, the knuckle hits it and bends it. So it probably works really good in a stock location, or yeah, stock situation, stock parts, whatever. Does not work with the lowered application. So here's the other side. I got it all done while you guys weren't looking too. Rotor's painted, calipers on, shocks on, grease zerks in, all that stuff. You guys didn't know I was that quick, did you? You like blinked and boom, I got a whole nother side done. It's amazing what I can do sometimes. But now that we've gotten through that line of BS I just tried to get you with, we're gonna move on to the next thing. And I've already done the box opening on this, but I'm gonna try to hide the fact that I already opened it and do a box opening for you guys. But we got a Borgeson performance gearbox for the steering, and it's a nice unit. Comes pretty and painted and all that stuff. It's Still heavy, trying to work it one-handed, but it appears to be a decent amount smaller than the original. And I wouldn't say it has a steering quickener, because it doesn't really have a steering quickener, but it's sped up so it takes less turns to go lock to lock, which more performance. I believe it's higher pressure. That's usually how they do the performance ones, but it's what it comes down to is it's a really nice piece. It really is. So I'm gonna get set up, I'm gonna get my stuff together, and then we're gonna throw this box on there. And then after we get the box on, we got our drag link, our tie rods, our idler arm, pitman arm, all that stuff. So we'll work through all that, but first thing we're gonna do, get this box mounted, see how it looks. All right. Not gonna say this is something that I recommend doing at the end of the day when you're already hot and worn out, because this sucker's heavy. And we got fresh paint on everything, and I really don't want to scratch it. Okay, got 2 bolts started. I thought one of them was snug enough that it couldn't move a whole lot, but I was wrong. It's okay, because it's not scratching anything. We're all right. Got all 4 bolts started, so I can go ahead and just crank it down now. It's one of those components you want to make sure is good and tight, because never a fun day if your steering box falls off your frame. Kind of takes you places you don't really want to go. So. All right, box is on. Start getting other parts lined up and putting them on. All right, getting ready to put my pitman arm on here, and this is a stock replacement pitman arm, and obviously this is an aftermarket but supposed to be stock replacement box. But I still want to look. If you look in there, you see how it's got the dead splines? At least that's what I call them. Extra grooves, whatever. And there's 4, 1 on each side. I look here, I got the same thing here. Now, from what I read, and best I gather, this steering box should be centered. So I'm going to go ahead and line these splines up, put this box on, or put the pitman arm on straight back, because that's where it would be when the box is centered. So when it turns this way, it goes so far. When it turns that way, it goes so far, but when the wheels are straight, the pitman arm should be pretty much centered. So I'm going to go ahead and go get my big impact and a socket, and we'll just tighten this on. And then while I'm thinking about it so I don't forget, we'll go ahead and put our grease zert in there. But we're getting close. I got to tighten this down. I got my bracket for my idler hung because I was under the assumption that the new idler would come with the bracket that it hangs on. It did not, so I had to clean that bracket up and paint it. And as much as I hate to do this, not that it hurts anything, it just, I don't know. But anyways, I painted it, and then while I was still holding it from painting it, I went ahead and bolted it on because I'm 99.9, I'm 100% sure that I can put the idler arm on it and not screw up the paint. So it's going to be okay. And I really wanted to get this finished up for this video, and I really wanted to get it finished up today. So every other part came painted, and I really got to give a shout out to Napa for that, because I don't usually get parts from Napa because there's usually not one close to where I live. But usually when I get parts, they come raw, not painted, all oiled up so they don't rust. And I got to clean all the oil off of everything and yada 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 and all that crap so that they can so that I can paint them. And these parts are all nicely painted like a satin or a gloss black, blending in with everything else that I'm doing here, and it looks phenomenal. So definitely a shout out to Napa for, I mean, I've always thought Napa had good quality parts, but not only do they have quality parts, the parts are finished and they look good. So like I said before, I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down, and then we'll put our pitman arm or our idler arm on and our drag link on, and then we'll throw our tie rods together and throw them on, and then maybe we'll end it there, and maybe we'll just finish the rest of the truck tonight. We'll see how it goes. All right, I went ahead and got the steering finished up. And the main reason behind not showing you guys step by step of the steering is you got a rod this big. It goes to a whole area that's that big, and it's all intertwined in there, and it's really hard to have a camera in my bubble while I'm doing what I need to do. So anyways, I showed you guys the pitman arm, I showed you guys the box, the idler arm I just bolted on. But everything is on, tight, cotter pin, grease zert installed, except for the straps on the adjuster sleeves. And we're gonna get that close, because obviously once we get this running, we're at least gonna have to drive it up on a trailer or something to take it to get it aligned. So I can't leave those adjuster sleeves loose. But I want to get tires on it, get it set down on the ground, and be able to visually make it, you know, see that it looks straight, and then I'll lock them down. But for right now, they're still loose. I did not put the tires back on and take it off of the jack stands because I painted a bunch of stuff today, mainly the top hats on the rotors, and I want those to have cure time before I just slam a wheel on them. So I got everything done. The only thing I didn't do is get this off the jack stands and back on tires. But if you really want to see that, hit the subscribe button, because we're going to do another video on this, and then you'll see how it sits with the tires on it off the jack stands. And I can already tell just by looking at it, it's got that stance we want. So anyways, I'm going to breeze through this real quick, show you guys one more time. There's the rotors, brakes, all the control arms, everything in. We got our tie rods, got our Borgeson steering box. It's all hooked up. They got the grease zerts. Everything got put in properly. There's our idler arm that you guys didn't see. There's the mount for the idler arm that I literally held like this through the hole, painted it, painted my hand with it, and then just kept pinching it, held it up there to get the bolts in so we could put this together with it drying. So, and there's the other tie rod assembly. It's all on. The front end is done, ready to put tires on, ready to set on the ground, and ready to roll this sucker inside, because from this point on, it's gonna have a home in the shop. My buddy Jeff that owns the truck should be coming over here in a couple weeks. He's supposed to be bringing the motor, trans, and a bunch of other parts. And then we're really gonna get kicking. Once this thing's got all the brake lines, motor, trans, all that, start on body work. I didn't want to mention this before, and I'm still not sure I want to mention this, but I already told you guys that the green 72 flatbed over there is my project truck for the truck gathering. If you guys don't know what the truck gathering is, I always put a link to their website in my description. It's a show that some good buddies of mine, this year is going to be the second year. It's a huge show. Any make, model, color, size, whatever truck, as long as it's got a tailgate and it's older than, I want to say 2000, but don't hold me to that. I could be wrong. You may be able to have newer than 2000. I got to check the rules again because I'm not up on it. But Guthrie, Oklahoma in April. As it gets closer, I'll get the date for you, whatever. Anyways, I've told you guys the 72 green dually, it's going to be my show truck for 2024, and my goal is to have it done in April for the truck gathering, which I haven't even started on it yet. Now, with that being said, I kind of might told the owner that I can probably have this done by the truck gathering in April. I'm a glutton for punishment. I like to have deadlines. I guess it makes me work a little bit harder, but I don't know. He's very understanding. He knows what it takes to do this, and at the end of the day, I put other people's stuff in front of mine. So if this is the truck that's sitting in the Harmon garage booth as the truck gathering, that's fine by me. It's still, even though I don't own it, it's still mine. You know what I'm saying? If I build it, it's mine. I did it. It's mine. That's what I'm trying to say. It's mine. So if this is the one that's sitting in the booth at the truck gathering, awesome. If that dually that I want to be my show truck for 2024 tows this truck to the truck gathering on my trailer, that'd be even cooler. So we'll see what we can do. I'm not making any promises. Make sure you check out the truck gathering so you can see what it is, see if you're interested. If you miss it, you really missed it, because last year was the first year of the show and it was one of the most awesome shows I've ever been to, and they're learning from last year to make this year better. So you better check it out. It's going to be cool. All right, enough of that. This truck's as far as we're going with it. I'm happy with the progress. Everything looks great, but we got something else to talk about. So I told you guys at the end of the last video, if the video got 300 comments, I would give away 3 t-shirts instead of 1. We made progress, but we still didn't reach 300. So I'm gonna do it again. If you guys give me 300 comments in this video, I'll give away 3 t-shirts to 3 different people. Random number generator will pick all that stuff for me. I don't deal with any of that. I literally punch in how many comments there were, and I count down the comments to see which one it is. So get me 300 comments, get me 300 likes, get me some subscriptions. I'll give away 3 t-shirts. But with that being said, the winner of the t-shirt from the last video is Aerial Images by Doug. I don't always know people's names, because whatever your screen name is that you log into YouTube with, that's what shows up. That's what I see with the comments. So if you got your name up there, then I got your name. If you got a screen name or a nickname or a username or whatever, then that's what I see. So Doug, we'll know who Doug is, but Aerial Images by Doug, you are the winner. Send me an email or a message on Instagram or Facebook. Give me your size, give me your address. I'll get a shirt out to you. I'm blabbering, and it's been long enough. It's getting late. I need to get home. Thank you guys so much for watching. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this. Y'all have a good one. We'll see you next time.